Okay, these are photos or stills of video that was recorded at South Beach Grill restaurant in St. Augustine, Florida on November 19th, 2020. Uh, these screenshots and video were taken with an illegally installed set of surreptitious cameras that the landlord of the premises, Lynn Kluger, and her son Michael Kluger had installed on that day, November 19th, 2020, after they illegally changed the locks to all of the entryway doors on both the first and second floor of the building. They did this illegally without a eviction order. They didn't even file for eviction. Simply wanted to seize control of the building, so they forcibly removed the tenant, which you can see here. They took a picture of with the cameras they installed after changing the locks throughout the interior and exterior of the building. Um, they, meaning the landlord, Lynn Kluger, and her son, Michael Kluger, provided these illegal photographs and videos to the FBI and misrepresented them. They also then these videos were withheld, pictures were withheld later at a federal PPP loan fraud trial, where it was claimed that the tenant had abandoned the premises. There is a motion for summary judgment order, or a partial summary judgment order that was entered that found that the landlord had in fact illegally changed the locks on that date, and that the tenant, South Beach Grill, uh, had legal possessory rights of the premises. But this photo here was provided by the landlord. It was illegally obtained with surreptitious cameras they installed. They represent here Wig, who they represent to be this guy here, is smashing more of the window, singular, after sunset, and they say 5:53 p.m., which is allegedly on November 19th, 2020. And says the police were called again. Again implies that the police had been called earlier, before this. You can see here in this grayscale picture, which is not uh, very good, that try and uh, take a look here. This window on the left, this is a window pane to the rear of the restaurant, and this is the rear deck. You can see the picnic benches for dining. Everything is intact. This door here, which is glass, is intact, and the bench has been pushed up to towards it to keep the door closed. Make sure no customers are trying to pull on the door handle. But here you can see that in this window that there's a small break into it. The whole window's not shattered. There is simply a small break in here, and that was made trying to gain re-entry into the building later that evening after the locks were changed early in the morning illegally. This picture shows same individual apparently, who they represent as Wig, with third individual. You do not see a third individual here. You do not see a second individual. I don't know why they call the other individual a third individual, because there's not even a second one shown or represented. They say she helps throughout the night, and they must be apparently referencing the night of November 19th, 2020. And it says, take items out of the building at 11:45 p.m. Doesn't say which items, and it doesn't show the third individual who they represent to be a female. But this image you see here was provided by the landlord, Lynn Kluger, to the FBI, and the FBI never released this at trial. This was withheld. Here's another picture that they Landlord took with a surreptitiously and illegally installed camera inside South Beach Grill. You see a grayscale image here. You see an individual that you can hardly identify, but they were represented to be James Wigg. This is at 8:41 p.m. Again on November 19th, 2020. They represent. You can see here that on the shelf, undamaged. There's some inventory items sitting on here. There's some cans here on the second shelf, all in order. Up here, you can see some what appears to be cooking wine and some bottles of inventory here. Nothing is damaged. Walls are not damaged. Uh, there's no damage being done. Just walking around inside the premises inside South Beach Grill. There's another picture that the landlord took with another illegally installed camera. What's interesting about here is you can see that what they labeled this picture to be is again a third individual, not a second, a third individual calling out, calling out for James at 11:59 p.m. Calling out implies that the surreptitiously recorded electronic equipment was recording audio. This is in strict violation of Florida statutes, and I believe it's statute 934 that prohibits recording another party without their consent. Florida is a dual consent state for electronic recording. So not only are they recording video illegally, the landlord was clearly recording audio illegally. And this is them, the landlord themselves, uh, demonstrating that they were doing that with a surreptitiously recorded camera. And they did this after they illegally changed the locks to the premises earlier that day without a court order, without filing for eviction, and in the process misstating to the St. Augustine Police Department that came out during the changing of the locks that the tenant was being evicted a few days later. A few days later, when nothing was even filed in the court, completely illegal eviction. Again, here's another picture. If we can rotate this, we go. Um, This was provided by the landlord. This was taken with another surreptitiously installed camera, illegally placed after the changing of the locks. The changing of the locks to the restaurant occurred early in the morning hours on November 19th. And you can see that they say here, this is the police show up and are communicating with Wig. Again, communicating with Wig. And they were, you can see same individual here to the left. And there are two St. Augustine deputies that are on premises. And there's no confrontation. There's no arrests. They're simply communicating. And they say here, but ultimately, no actions are taken by law enforcement. 5:26 p.m. In other words, the police are there. They're just having a conversation with the tenant who has been displaced illegally, and no actions are taken, and no arrest took place. And the reason no arrest took place is the landlord had called the police out after installing illegally placed cameras, and the police came out and realized that the tenant was not doing anything and was just trying to regain access to the property. Here it is. Here's a video they purport they took at 5:13 p.m. 13 minutes before the 5:26 p.m. video when the police. Here it is. This is the landlord's own illegally recorded video. They say James Wigg here is smashing windows. Where do you see smashed windows in this video? And it says with a chain on the east side of the building at 5:13 p.m. Police are called right after the video. So they're saying here's at 5:13, the window or windows were allegedly smashed, and then the police are called. The police come out. Here, the police come out at 13 minutes later, and they go around the building and make no arrest. Here, this is another picture that the landlord took with the same porch camera or video equipment they installed. The police acknowledged the smashed windows. You can see here, all you see is one small crack here in the left window. The police are here, the deputy's here. He looks straight at it, sees that the tenant has uh, broken a window as represented in order to try and regain access to the locked property. The door here in the middle, which is glass, is intact, completely intact. You can see it by the reflection through it, the unbroken reflection. And you can see the porch, I'm sorry, the wooden bench is still pushed against the door to make sure customers don't try to enter. And you can see the rightmost window is intact. The reflection is intact. What you see here, these gray areas, these are bucket lamps that were affixed to the trellis. That's an old bucket lamp. Here's a bucket lamp here. All you see is a small crack in the left window trying to re-enter. The police acknowledge at 5:25. Here's another image taken inside the restaurant South Beach Grill on November 19th, 2020, taken with another illegally installed camera by the landlord. They say here, they label this, they said James Wigg gains access to the building by going through window on second floor. He begins immediately taking paperwork out of the building at 6:05 p.m. And you see here, I mean, this is a rear shot, can't even see who this is, but you see there's apparently something that does look like paperwork being taken out. Again, you can see the shelf is intact. The Hershey box is down here with whatever's in there. Cans of inventory are stacked neatly, undamaged. And on the third shelf, you can still see the glass bottles and cooking wine. You can see the walls are intact. Whatever's here, that's apparently some kind of mirror that's placed on the wall, that this is intact. Nothing is smashed. Building's intact. And paperwork is being taken out at 6:05 p.m., about half an hour after the police were out at 5:26. Another one that they show, same rear shot of an individual. You can't really see. Everything is intact on the shelves. The walls are intact. Looks like more paperwork here. You can see more what appears to be paperwork being taken out at 8:40 on November 19, 2020. Despite these pictures, the representation was made by Lynn Kluger in her sworn affidavit and her representations to the government that walls were smashed, that all of the restaurant's windows were broken and smashed out, that support structures were destroyed with a chain, and that over $590,000 of damage was caused. Yet these pictures, these images, were withheld at the federal criminal trial, where representations were made that the police were present and these pictures were not shown. This is clearly a violation of due process. This is clearly intentional withholding of exculpatory evidence, and this is a textbook Brady violation under Brady versus Maryland.